Dear Taurus, a steadfast message from beyond is reaching out to you. Don't let this grounding moment slip away. This isn't just a coincidence. It's a sacred moment your resilient soul has patiently awaited. As you read these words, perhaps you feel a familiar stability, as if something is seeing through the resolute exterior you wear daily. If you're ready, let your steady heart step into this journey, a place where every Taurus soul has been called by name. Though not everyone dared to listen with stillness, there are messages that don't require words. They come like the scent of earth after rain, like a familiar melody echoing, or an unexplained sense of profound peace. Taurus, you are born to feel deeply the essence of stability, and often you are the first to sense these solid callings. Yet, you may choose silence, not because you didn't hear, but because you feared the disruption to the world you've carefully cultivated. In Buddhist teachings, this is known as karma ripening, where the seeds of our past actions and connections bear fruit. There comes a moment of profound awakening when invisible echoes rise like a powerful undercurrent within your heart. This message doesn't arrive through logic. It comes through practical intuition, through the sensation of your heart stirring with a calm yet certain tremor. Many Taurus have shared that their awakening began only after experiencing losses that shook their foundations, a farewell, a financial setback, or a lingering illness. Strangely, it is often when our foundations are shaken that we finally see the light of inner resilience. For some callings only emerge when we have nothing left to cling to but ourselves. Let me share a story about Arthur, a 67-year-old man who fell into despair after his family farm was struck by a natural disaster. For weeks, he was engulfed in sadness until 49 days later, walking through his ravaged garden, he saw a tiny sprout pushing through the parched earth. In that moment, he felt his late father was there, saying, "Life remains, son, rebuild for me." From that moment, he began to restore the garden and started a gardening class for young people in his community. Perhaps he wasn't just called, he dared to listen. What messages are reaching your steadfast soul right now? Share in the comments. Now, let's move into the second part of our journey, where the stillness in your heart speaks for the universe. Sometimes, the most sacred messages come not with sound, but in silence. It's not the loud cries that awaken us, but the steady breaths in a night where all disturbances have vanished. The universe doesn't shout. It whispers through the steadfastness of the earth, and only when you quiet your mind can you hear its words. Silence, often avoided, is the doorway that leads inward to abundance. In Buddhist philosophy, stillness isn't emptiness. It's the space where the true mind reflects most clearly, like a calm autumn lake. A wise monk once wrote that we fear being alone, but it's in those quiet moments that we finally hear our own hearts. When truly listened to, the heart doesn't speak in words. It communicates through sensations, like an underground stream flowing quietly, yet powerfully enough to nourish a vast forest. In Zen Buddhism, this inward listening is a return to your true nature, steadfast and resilient. Each soul carries its own sacred scripture, and when the outer noise fades, that scripture echoes from within. It's not a vision or prophecy, it's a state of being a pure acknowledgement of your existence and divine guidance. Clara, a 58-year-old woman, provides a beautiful example. Surrounded by constant noise work, phones, social media, she decided to retreat to her late mother's old country cabin for a weekend of solitude. No Wi-Fi, no distractions, just her, the trees, and the wind. On the second day, while sitting in the old garden, something extraordinary happened. The leaves around her stood still, but one small, withered wildflower in front of her slowly began to unfurl its delicate petals. In that moment of stillness, she felt something shift profoundly within her. Upon returning home, she found a letter from her son, one that had never been sent. I went looking for someone to ask about my fears, and then I realized I just need my mum's steady presence. Sometimes, the universe doesn't respond with grand events. It answers through synchronicity. When you quiet your mind, the physical world also quiets. A door you believed was closed slowly creaks open. When you pray, without words, just sitting, breathing, knowing that you are heard, you connect with a loving presence. The divine doesn't require you to shout to be heard. It simply asks you to sit still and gaze into those steady, quiet spaces in your soul that you've been avoiding. You don't need to understand everything. You simply need to trust that the callings you receive don't have to be loud to be true. Like the dawn following the darkest night, you can't summon it, but you can open the door and welcome it in. Silence is the sacred scripture for souls seeking stability. It's the invisible bridge connecting you to the divine. It's where you learn to see and believe. You don't have to be strong. You only need to be present. Have you ever heard something in the silence? Write it down as an affirmation: I was still and I was heard. As you step through this doorway of silence, you may start to realize that not every lesson comes wrapped in sorrow. Some miracles arrive as delightful surprises, and some challenges come dressed in joy. This is where we continue our journey. The universe tests your soul not with darkness, but with unexpected light. There's a quiet truth many overlook while we're taught to be resilient in pain. We often feel unprepared for blessings. We know how to endure, but not how to receive. We learn to pray, but struggle to live within a prayer that has already been answered. Perhaps this is why so many remain trapped in cycles of anxiety, even when good things come knocking at their door, only to find themselves too afraid to open it. In Buddhist teachings, there's a profound phrase about impermanence. See the truth. This means we must not only look at life in its trembling moments, but also when it's still and abundant. If we're not awake, we might miss the miracles passing us by. Many Taurus viewers have expressed that they only allow themselves to believe in light after becoming far too familiar with scarcity or hardship. One woman, 62 years old, shared, "I never let myself feel joy for too long because I'm afraid something will come along and break it." While this sentiment sounds reasonable to your cautious nature, it's actually a door slowly closing on grace. Are you unknowingly closing the door to your own blessings simply because you doubt their worth or fear they won't last? Have you ever sabotaged your happiness, postponing it as if it were a gift meant for someone else or something that must be earned through great effort? In the scriptures, there's a line that says, "Whoever is faithful with little will be entrusted with much." This means that God tests us not only in hardship, but also in abundance, to see if we'll remain humble and use our blessings to spread goodness. Happiness is a form of karma, the sweet fruit of good karma. But to truly live within happiness, you must also learn to stay awake, not to claim it, but to give thanks. Imagine a farmer, after days of toil, finally reaching a bountiful harvest. Instead of rejoicing, they worry if the crop will be safe from pests or if prices will hold. This is a soul not yet healed, not from lack, but from a lack of faith in abundance. The universe may test you with tears, but it may also test you with joy. You may have survived darkness with commendable steadfastness. But can you allow yourself to be happy without needing a reason? Can you believe that grace doesn't always come with a price? That God can love you even before you've done anything to deserve it? A viewer once wrote, "I begged for a new chance, but when it came, I rejected it, thinking it must be a trap or too good to be true." This story is not rare. Many endure storms, yet tremble under the sun. So today, if you find yourself in a season of peace, don't fear it. Look closer. Could this be the very gift you once prayed for amid your pain? If so, don't let doubt steal what is sacred. In Buddhist wisdom, there's a saying, "To know enough is a blessing. To know gratitude is the path." So if today you have a roof over your head, a breath, a full meal, or a day without chaos, that is a blessing. If you can fold your hands in gratitude, that is your first step toward enlightenment and true peace. I once heard a quote that stuck with me. Happiness is not something you have, it's something you dare to accept. Have you dared to accept it? Be honest with yourself. Have you ever broken the flow of your own happiness? Write it down as a confession. I am ready to open myself to the light and to abundance. Perhaps the real question isn't what you've been waiting for, but whether you've opened your heart wide enough to see it when it arrives. The messages from other worlds, from God, from the universe, these never disappear. They simply wait for you to be still enough, faithful enough, and ready enough to notice. This is the moment when invisible doors begin to open. But not everyone walks through. Only those who know how to knock with their steadfast heart, their unwavering faith, and the quiet whisper of their soul are truly invited in. Now, we step into part 4, where these invisible doors are starting to open. If you've dared to open your heart to happiness, perhaps the most sacred thing awaits you. Not another test, not more darkness, but a door, the greatest door your soul has ever touched. This isn't an ordinary door. It appears only when your soul is truly ready to enter. It's an invisible door, accessible only to those who knock with faith. Many go through life unaware that they're surrounded by open gates, seeking grand miracles while the universe whispers through small things, a glance, a sentence, a sudden sense of warmth. These tiny fragments are the messages the Buddha taught us to have deep faith in karma, meaning everything coming your way is not random. Taurus, you possess powerful, practical intuition. It's not your imagination. It's not that you're overly pragmatic. You have the ability to feel steady vibrations that others ignore. But sensitivity without faith can turn into stubbornness or fear. You may sense the door, but hesitate to knock, believing it isn't meant for you, or fearing that door isn't solid enough. The Bible emphasizes, knock, and the door will be opened. But one part of that sentence is often forgotten. You must believe there's a door before you knock. If you live with the mindset that all good things will eventually leave you, even when grace stands before you, you'll only see deception or instability. Faith doesn't create miracles. It allows you to recognize that the miracle has always been there, steadfast and waiting. There's a viewer named David, a Taurus born in 1955, whose story moved me deeply. After losing his lifelong job, he lived a closed-off, anxious life. One day, he read a line in an old book at the library: "When you knock on the right door with perseverance, the keeper of light will hear." He didn't fully understand it, but from that day on, he wrote one affirmation: Every morning, I am worthy of stability and light. Just 3 weeks later, during a morning walk, an old friend he'd lost touch with unexpectedly approached him, handing him a notebook she felt he should have. Inside was a concept, similar to the quote he had read, along with a handwritten note, "Thank you for knocking with perseverance. Here's that business plan we once drafted. I believe it still has value. Do you see it?" That wasn't just a miracle. It was the universe responding to someone who dared to believe, to speak with persistence, to receive. What you're seeking is also seeking you. But have you knocked long enough? Or did you just tap lightly and pull away, thinking no one was there, or the door wasn't secure? In Buddhism, bowing to the Buddha isn't about asking for blessings. It's about aligning your heart in reverence so you can finally see the blessings already present. Similarly, in Christianity, prayer isn't about changing God's mind. It's about transforming your own heart to realize that God always had the door open. Sometimes, that door isn't outside, it's within you. You may stand right in front of what you've been praying for, but fail to see it because your heart remains closed by doubt or apprehension. Remember, light cannot enter a soul whose window is shut. Even if morning has come, if your eyes are closed, you're still lost in the darkness of your own making. So today, if you're listening and something stirs within you, don't ignore it. That might be a gentle knock, persistent yet soft. It could be your soul resonating with these words, or perhaps God whispering with every breath. Are you ready? If your answer is yes, let's share a small ritual. Write down, "I knock with the light of steadfastness," as a declaration to your soul and a promise to the universe that you're ready to see what has always been there, waiting for your heart to open. If you truly knock with an open heart, believing something awaits you on the other side, then the final part of this journey is the most profound. It's no longer about the light outside or a call from someone else. It's about realizing that you are that light. Many spend their lives searching for a sacred message, traveling far and wide, asking many questions, reading endlessly, yet still feeling unfulfilled or ungrounded. They've never stopped to look within, never realized that what they seek is themselves in their purest, most grounded form. As shared by a 70-year-old woman named Eleanor, "I used to think the message was something mysterious and distant. Now I know it is the steadfastness within me." In Buddhist teachings, this awakening is called returning, not going anywhere or becoming someone else, but stopping long enough to see your true, unwavering heart. Enlightenment isn't about finding truth out there. It's about remembering who you already are, a steadfast being, connected to the earth. God doesn't need you to become someone else to be loved. He simply needs you to know that you were loved even before you knew how to love yourself. Have you ever read this line in the Bible? "You are the light of the world." That's not just a metaphor. It's a spiritual truth. You are the purest light God has placed on this earth, not because you are always strong or perfect, but because within you lies a piece of the divine. That light never goes out. It only gets covered by layers of fear, doubt, and anxiety about instability. Today, I want to remind you that sacred light still burns brighter than ever. If you peel away those layers, you'll see yourself again, more radiant and grounded than ever. I know many Taurus have grown accustomed to giving your stability to others. You shine quietly in the background, supporting, listening, and nurturing, often forgetting that you too deserve to be supported, heard, and cared for. You are not merely a foundation in someone else's story. You are the very beautiful architecture of your own journey. Each time you affirm, "I accept my inherent, steadfast greatness," or whisper, "I am a being of light and stability," it's not delusion, it's recollection. You're remembering what your soul has always known, but that life made you forget. The universe doesn't send messages to change you. God doesn't call you to pull you away from yourself. Both whisper the same truth. You have always been enough, always been grounded. When you truly remember this, when you sit in the stillness of faith, you'll see every message appear like a mirror, no translator needed, no validation required. In that moment, you no longer need to prove anything. You only need to be present. Try sitting alone tonight. Turn off all the lights. Silence your phone, just you and your breath. Whisper, "I remember who I am." It's not a plea, it's a return. If you're brave enough to remember, you'll realize that what you've been waiting for has never truly left you. Write this below in the comments as a soul ritual. "I remember who I am, and I open my heart to the steadfast light within me." Thank you for being here, for listening, and for opening your heart to walk this journey with me. Every moment you spend here is a miracle. Remember, dear Taurus, you are the light, you are loved, and you have never been lost in the eyes of God and the universe. Until we meet again on this sacred journey, know that you are seen, you are heard, and you are never alone.